Hello everyone and welcome to, I should go back a slide, welcome to the Importance of Literacy, Lesson 15. We're going to start looking at the importance of literacy sort of from a worldwide point of view, and then over the next few lessons we're going to bring it down to why is literacy important in the language arts classroom. So that's sort of the trajectory of the next few lectures. Okay, so these are literacy mantras that your colleagues in 371 have written in the past. So after this lecture today, I want you to be able to write some kind of a mantra of why you believe literacy is important. Why are we even looking at literacy? Why is literacy such a core component of our education system now? So again, be thinking about a mantra like this as we go through today's lesson. So don't be stupid. No literacy equals no future. Literacy for the future and beyond. Literacy is a bridge from misery to hope. Ooh, I like that one. Literacy today, leading tomorrow. Literacy's lit, embrace it. Make literacy great again. I'm not going to touch that one. And to literacy or not to literacy? That is the question. And let literacy live. So again, think about your own literacy mantra that you can create at the end of today's lesson. Okay, so let's jump in. So what I want you to do is to get us thinking about why is literacy important, especially on a worldwide stance, is I want you to watch this Malala Yousafzai. This is her 2013 bid at the United Nations as part of her campaign to ensure free compulsory education for every child. If you don't remember, Malala was shot in Pakistan by the Taliban on her way to school as a young woman. And as you watch the video, I want you to think about why would the Taliban want to shoot a young woman going to school? Okay, so that's what we're going to have you think about as you watch this video. And the second video is the reality of literacy in the world, and this is from the World Literacy 2012 Summit. But it's the predicaments are still the same in 2020. So again, I want you to look at the lifestyle, the living conditions, and potential for economic stability when a child and ultimately a population has very little education and ultimately no way to become literate. So watch those two, stop me, watch those two videos, and those are the questions. Why did Taliban want to shoot a young woman going to school? And look at the lifestyle, living conditions, and potential for economic stability when there's very little education and thus very little literacy. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you watched, actually I'm just gonna go back. Hopefully you watched those videos. I think part of the reason why, and you will have some ideas, part of the reason why Malala was shot on the way to school was because the Taliban realized that the education is important and powerful. An educated person will generally not stand for a dictatorship. They will be able to consciously think through and read about and formulate opinions that a dictatorship that absolutely dictates everything in their lives is not where they want to be. They also, the Taliban understand the power of education, that if you can keep your people under control if they can't read, because they can't get any other ideas other than the ones that you are feeding them. And so the Taliban were very, very smart to be wanting to control the education system and thus the literacy rate in Pakistan so that they could remain in control. And I think you've probably found that from the World Literacy Summit video is that it's very hard when you are in a country where the literacy rates are not high to gain any kind of economic stability or to really have a living condition that is anywhere above the poverty line. Okay, so hopefully that sort of situates a little bit of the importance of literacy on a worldwide scale. Okay, here are some numbers because it's always interesting to look at a few numbers. Again, these are stats from 2011, so you might see different numbers, but generally, here we go. I'm going to get my pencil. There are 774 million illiterate adults in the world. 2/3 of those are women. 123 million are youth, 5 to 24, and 2/3 of this are, again, women. So 2/3 of both the adult and the youth are women in here. Learning to read as an adult takes time and effort many poor women can't spare because generally they are usually, tending to the family or just trying to make sure that they survive. And I'm going to click off that and go to the next stat. Okay, so this is adult literacy rates in 2015. So dark green means that the population is 90 to 100% literate, and then it goes down from there. So when you look at the world scale, you go, well, you know what? That's actually pretty good. We've got, you got North America, South America, Europe, Russia, China, Australia, South Africa. That's, pretty good. A lot of African nations, India, Polynesia, Central America, those are ones that are not high up on the scale. But I want you to look at what the requirement is to be deemed literate. Adult literacy rate is a percentage of people aged 15 and above who can both read and write with understanding a short, simple statement about their everyday life. Definitions may differ in some countries. So again, I think when we're looking at these kind of literacy rates and we say, yes, literacy rates are going up, that's a good thing and I'm happy for that. But I think as academics, we need to be cautious of what is the level of literacy that is needed to actually help improve a person's lifestyle and situation. And we're going to jump into what literacy can actually improve in just a minute. But some more stats here for you. So World Literacy Summit, this is 2018 data. Global literacy rate for adults with disabilities is as low as 3% and 1% for women with disabilities. So 1% of women with disabilities on a global sense are literate. Estimated that 1/3 of the 58 million children who remain out of primary school have a disability. The global adult literacy rate was 86% in 2016. But again, be thinking about what that potentially means. A child's first language has been established as the most efficient language for early literacy and content area instruction. In low-income countries, only 1 in 5 children have access to preschool education. And illiteracy costs, this is so interesting, illiteracy costs world in US dollars 1.19 trillion each year. And we're going to look at how literacy can have such an economic impact. This is more than half the gross domestic product of Italy. And I think these are super interesting numbers. Okay, here we go. I'm going to just jump down here. So this, the rest of this lecture is partly based on your reading from this week. So if you want to, kind of have that going at the same time, you're welcome to, or you're welcome to, read the reading after. I think it depends. Again, but you'll see some of the same things from your reading, and then I brought in other stats in here. Okay, so UNESCO rationale. So basically, go back to here. Literacy is the core of education for all. UNESCO rationale for promoting literacy. Basically, literacy skills are essential in today's knowledge society. We are now a knowledge-based society. So think about our society today. Think about technology. Think about the amount of information that's coming at you. Think about how much even you already today have read, texted, emailed, looked at pictures and commented, caught cultural cues through your reading. Okay, so we are a knowledge-based society, and even our pastimes require literacy. We watch videos, we read, hopefully we read, right? So even our pastimes. Basically, most of our knowledge nowadays comes from reading and writing and not necessarily from experience. So think about 100 years ago in 1920, knowledge would have come by actually doing something, whereas now knowledge comes through reading about it, through writing about it, not so much through actually experiencing it. Okay, so next point, benefits confer on individuals, communities, and nations. So we're going to look at all of those. How does literacy, it benefits the individual person, so like me, it will benefit my community, so like Medicine Hat or Alberta, and it benefits the nation, so Canada, and ultimately the world. And we're going to look at how that is. Literacy is a fundamental or basic education. That's why Alberta education is so focused on literacy, because we know now that without literacy skills, really education, you don't get the full impact of education. So if you have a child who's struggling with reading and writing, especially reading, they will struggle through school. It's a fundamental of basic education. Literacy skills, basically it's the ability to make informed decisions and personal empowerment. Okay, so it's the way that you make decisions in your life. Is you go, oh, what do I think about this issue? I'm going to read about this, and I'm going to read about this, and I'm going to read about this, and then I'm going to make an informed decision, versus I'm just going to accept what's being told to me by the dictator of the country, and I'm just going to go with that. Okay, so the benefits of literacy can be classified as human, political, cultural, social, and economic. So let's have a go with each one of these. The human benefit of literacy is basically self-esteem. Think about why do you think self-esteem would go up if you can read and write? Especially if you are in one of the countries that you saw in the video. Well, you may, especially if you are a woman, you may have independence from your husband or your family if you can actually read and write. So if you can navigate the world on your own, you can have that autonomy, which is linked to self-esteem. And you can gain new ideas and you can broaden your own thinking, which again improves your own self-esteem, because you are not just following, you are not just going along with the point of view of either your husband, your father, your family, or your government. Okay, so improved self-esteem reported worldwide in studies of literacy programs in such countries as Brazil, India, and US. And especially its empowerment for women, because we saw that there are a lot of women in the world that are not do not have literacy skills, and so thus will constantly be under somebody else. So again, husband, brother, family, government. Okay, and again, they are empowered to take charge of their own knowledge, to become self-reliant and exert control of their own daily affairs instead of, again, just going along. Okay, political benefits. So generally, if we look at political benefits of literacy, countries with high literacy rates in adults, where it is, I would say, more than just understanding simple statements, where there is like literacy rates like there are in Canada, where we have a high level of understanding, is we find generally that educated people are to some extent more likely to vote. I put to some extent because it always amazes me when we have this amazing educated populace and then this disjunct between our democratic right to vote. So generally educated people are to some extent more likely to vote, and then thus will impact government and government statements, government thinking, all those sorts of things. Okay, educated people are more likely to voice tolerant attitudes and democratic values. Generally, educated people will look at politics from all sides and not just from what they are told, and they will look at it from other people's points of view, because that's what you gain through literacy. Expansion of literacy basically means the expansion of democracy. And again, this is a bit of an assumption that you believe democracy is good. That's a whole other topic. But if you believe that democracy is good, then you have to have an expansion of literacy to have an expansion of democracy. It kind of goes together. And D, you are more prepared to intervene to make governing bodies responsible. Again, we won't just go along because they know, we as the populace would know the options, and so we wouldn't just say, okay, yeah, we'll go with whatever lead you are taking us. Okay. Also, in post-conflict situations, literacy impacts peace in post-conflict context because most times there's a power vacuum after a conflict. And if you have a literate citizenship, then usually radicals cannot just come in and jump in and take over that vacuum and then have the same issues over and over again. Okay, so those are political benefits of literacy. Cultural benefits of literacy. So basically, this may facilitate transmission of certain values, and it may promote transformation of other values, attitudes, and behaviors through critical reflection. So instead, actually, I'm just going to read this because I think the example makes sense. Once women in Pakistan are able to read and write in Urdu, the national language, and in English, the quality of their leisure time changes and they create a new norm of privacy, according to studies of 2 different rural communities. Younger women can create private time where they can read news, romantic fiction, and women's magazines and write diaries. Reading and writing do not remain mere leisure activities, but become means of creating private space, freeing imagination, and engaging in reflection and emotional expression. Through leisure reading and writing, women begin to question. See, this is where the Taliban don't want women, especially women, to question, challenge, resist, and renegotiate values and their own roles. So if you're, especially if your women in the country become more literate, they will start to challenge, hey, you know what? I actually don't want to always have to go out into the market with my brother or my husband. I want to be able to go out on my own. And that is a cultural assumption that then when especially women have literacy skills, they can challenge. Super interesting, isn't it? It's like, yeah, literacy is cool, but it has a huge impact on all of these things. Okay, social benefits of literacy. Again, I'm just going to kind of cruise through this. Practice of literacy can help maintain good health and longer living. Again, they know a little bit more about maybe nutrition, about water sources, things in the water that they should be looking for, places that they shouldn't be getting water from. Learn throughout life. Again, they have a lifetime of learning versus just learning this little thing here when they're 20, and then that's the thing that they do until they are 70. They control reproductive behavior. Again, lots of women in those third world nations don't have any control over their reproductive behavior, and so this would maybe be a way to control some of the world population in there. They are more able to raise healthy children and educate them, so maybe they have fewer children, and so thus they have a little bit some more resources to go towards educating. It gives women access to information, and again, that's why the Taliban did not want Malala to go to school, because once especially women have information, they start to change everything. Okay, infant mortality, here's just an example. Infant mortality was less by statistically significant amount among Nicaraguan mothers who had participated in adult literacy campaign. In Bolivia, health-related situations improved when women attend literacy and basic education programs. Okay, so again, social benefits, your populace is healthy and more aware of their own ability to control their own situation. Okay, economic benefits of literacy. Again, I just think this is fascinating because you think, yeah, reading is okay, but it is hugely impactful across the world. So economic benefits of literacy, education, basically, and we're finding a little bit of a change here in first world nations, but education still equals individual income. The higher your education, generally higher the individual income. And again, we're seeing a bit of a change, but I would say overall that is still the economic situation. So for example, when your education level goes up, generally your individual income also goes up, which then as a country, if you're thinking on a nationwide, as your income goes up, then you get more taxes as the government, and then your country can supply things like road and medical systems and those kind of things. Okay, so for example, to experience economic growth in a technology sector, which we are now in, you must have at least 40% literate rate in the country. So think about if we went back to that map of Africa, where very few of the nations in Africa had a very high literacy rate. They have to have 40% literacy rate to even start to compete in the technology sector now. And there's a great disparity in literacy rates between rich and poor in most countries where the literacy rate is low. Okay, so again, there's these gaps are widening. So the rich are literate and becoming richer, and the general population is illiterate and getting poorer in there. So it is a huge impact on economics. Okay, so hopefully this little romp through literacy in the world and its importance gives you a little bit of an idea that it is not just a nice thing to be able to read and write. It is crucial to every aspect, to human, to social, to political, to economic, right? It's hugely impactful. So literacy is a foundation to build a more sustainable future for all. Again, we want to make sure that we are all included. We're not segregating certain groups, and we're not segregating certain countries. Okay, it's video time. This is like rolling. Oh, you guys don't even remember this. Rolling in the film projector and letting it roll. I want you to watch. This is about a 16-minute video, and it's called Mina Smiles, and it's a UNESCO. It's in UNESCO archives from 1993, so it's kind of old, but it's a little corny at times. But I think it really gives you a sense of the impact of literacy on an individual woman in a third world nation, and how literacy skills absolutely changed her life on all of the levels that we looked at: political, economic, cultural, social, like those ones. So I want you to just go there, sit back, maybe get some popcorn, and just watch the whole thing. Because it is just, I think it's a really good video on, when we talk sort of these world numbers, we want to bring it down to the individual, and how can literacy impact the individual, because the more individuals we impact with literacy, then that's how we impact the world. Okay, so do that, and then what we're going to do and collaborate is we are going to talk about what is your experience with literacy or illiteracy across the world, either through reading or direct experience. So maybe you have someone in your family who you might say is close to being illiterate, and how has that impacted that individual's life? And I want you to, again, write and share a short mantra on why you think literacy is important, similar to the mantras that you saw at the beginning. All right. Hopefully you are inspired to think about literacy in maybe a different way, and to think about literacy, again, not just as something nice that is fun for us as Canadians to have, but that it absolutely impacts everything that we do in the world. All right, take care.